Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, it's 2019, we're being aggressive, so just, ladies. I'm kidding. So my name is Alex Mika, and I'm going to do some music-based comedy, so I thought I'd start with a lo-fi freestyle rap about the current state of Palestine. I'm totally kidding. My name's Jake, and I'm here to introduce the man himself, Alex Mika. Let's hear it for him.
Hey everybody. Last year I tripped over the wire, so I'm going to try not to do that this year, setting the bar low. So I think I'd like to start by talking about freshman year a little bit, because I am a sophomore now, so I can do that with 20/20 hindsight. And I'd like to begin by saying that freshman year was wild. Not for me, though you can probably tell that by looking at me. No, I'm the kind of person that gets injured by sitting in a chair. Just last Saturday, I got a concussion sitting down. To be fair, though, it's one of those Yukon chairs, you know, the ones they have in the dorms that are kind of like a rocking chair, but I know. So what happened was, I'm sitting in the chair and I'm reading on a Saturday night, because I'm an English major, that's what I do, and I didn't realize it was already leaning back, so I lean back a little more, and I go, it was a good time. That's the thing about those chairs, I don't get it. It's like they took the worst things about a rocking chair, the fact that it's not stationary, and they took everything bad about a stationary chair, that it doesn't rock, and they end up with something that goes clunk, and that's it. But anyways, before I forget what I was going to say about freshman year, I'm more of an observer. I like to sit back and watch. And from what I saw, for a lot of people, freshman year was a lot like a sunset, you know? Some things are going down, but overall it's a pretty good time. For a lot of people, it was still a sunset, except it seemed that they were on Mercury, and literally everything was melting around them. And I get it, though, because I think one of the best ways to describe freshman year, at least at first, is intimidating. You know, you get there, and it's like you're moving out west in frontier country, and it's the year of our Lord 1807, because you have no idea what to expect, except what some people have been telling you, and most of them are probably tall tales. So you're going out there in your caravan, and you see cows and trees and other wild animals, and there's random outbursts of diseases, and you don't know which mushrooms are safe. And you get here, and it's like, I don't know anyone. And I don't know about you, but for me that was a bit of a transition, because after dealing with the same people for like 10 to 12 years, from elementary school to high school, it's like, I sometimes forget that people don't know who I'm talking about when I talk about Leopold. Like, they don't know that that's my cat. And when I think about it, they probably thought that he was like an exotic named Lover and not my exotic short hair, because I'd be saying things like, I'm gonna miss him so much. Do you think he'll stop loving me? And it's a bit of a blessing and a curse, though, coming in and meeting all the new people, because it made me realize that I only have so many jokes to tell, you know? And after 10 to 12 years, people are like, okay, Alex, come on, we've heard this. But coming to a new place, it's like, oh, I can bring all the dusty material and just, you know, dust it off for a whole new audience. Hi, folks, sorry tonight. But it can be intimidating, definitely. And I noticed that, especially at the beginning of freshman year. I remember on move-in day, this one person took it to a whole new level. I'm getting in the elevator, and I'm alone, when I hear someone behind me go, hold, please! So I do. I'm not a jerk to people I don't know. So I hold the door, I press the button, and this girl comes running in, and her arms are full of things. So I say, what floor? And she goes, I have a boyfriend. I'm confused. I'm shocked. Not necessarily that she has a boyfriend, because I'm sure she has a nice personality, even though she wasn't showing it at the time. But what does that mean when you say, what floor, and they say, I have a boyfriend? What is that? And ladies and gentlemen, if you're using what floor as your pickup line, you really, really have to step up your game. But for me, I think the biggest transition was what they loosely term as food here. Now, ooh, I hear, ooh. Yes, so I'm a strict believer in the thumper rule, you know, from Bambi the rabbit. That's like, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it at all. Well, but the food. It made me think about it because, like, when I got here, it's a bit of an adjustment, definitely, you know? Everybody would tell me, since I think like freshman year of high school, oh, beware the freshman 15, you know, as though as soon as I would come here, I would forget about every dietary habit that I had developed over the 17 years of my life, and I would get here and become this giant looming monster that just consumes everything in its path. And that's exactly what happened. I met insomnia cookies. I've lost sleep over those things. But besides the few rare godsends, it's definitely, I don't really think there's much of a wagon to fall off of here, you know? Because, I mean, the whole point of junk food is that it's so good that you're willing to get early onset cardiac arrest, right? But here, it's not really so much of a man versus food situation as it's man versus whatever they're trying to pull off as chicken nuggets these days. But, one time last year, my little cousin came here for an event over the weekend, and they went into the dining hall, and he sees all the food and all the trays, and he's like, ah, you can eat all of that. And I'm like, yeah, and get seconds? Sure. And dessert? I can't wait to go to college. Oh, the innocence of youth. But, it really put things into perspective for me a little bit, you know? It made me appreciate it a little bit more. It made me think that, like, we're like on this cruise or something, you know? And there's this big buffet where you get to choose your food destiny over the next 4 years. Now, the cruise may be the Titanic, and we're all sinking into student debt. But let's focus on the food for now. Was so I could say by gum. But it's a transition, you know. Needless to say though, I survived freshman year. This semester, though, iffy. I'm taking 5 English classes, so I did do it to myself. I recognize that, and I don't have any right to complain. But that's never stopped me before. So, I'm an English major, as I said, so I really did it to myself. It's funny telling people you're an English major, you know, because if they're also an English major, there's like one response that you get, but 2 different versions. The first one is, "Ooh, yay, books, me too!" And the other one is, "Oh, books. Yeah, me too." But if you tell someone that you're an English major and they're not an English major, there's almost always just one response. And it's kind of like a cartoon character falling down the stairs. Because it's like, ooh, ooh, oh, ah, ew, ooh, why? I mean, good for you, but why? And then they often like to follow up with, so what do you do as an English major? And I love that question because, and I play along, you know, it's kind of obvious, but all right, we'll go with it. So I just say, you know, it's a lot of reading, a lot of writing, analysis of text, creative writing, fiction, nonfiction, creative nonfiction, whatever the hell that is. And then they go, oh. As though they were expecting me to say something wild out there. Like I put nuclear codes into verse or something, you know, where the US weaved bomb, who are we gonna drop it on? But, I mean, yeah, I do that, but in my free time, that's what I'm here for right now. But, the truth is, I love my major, but it's not a blind love. You know, I recognize that English is usually a BA, but there's a lot of BS involved too, you know? I mean, it's very subjective, and very few things besides the words on the page are black and white. For example, I remember I took a creative writing class last semester, and we were doing short story workshops. So I wrote a short story for the class, and I emailed it to the professor so that she could print it for the workshop. And before I did that, though, I couldn't remember if this was the instructor that likes things as PDFs or not, so I sent it as a PDF, but I didn't check it first. And when I come to class, she hands it out, we're about to workshop my piece, and I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. Because what happened was it became one giant block of text that is hell to read. And I'm thinking, oh my God, they're going to tear it up. My literary career is over before it's even begun. But then I'm like, well, okay, maybe they won't notice. Maybe they won't say anything. And so as soon as they're done reading the piece, the professor goes, so the structure, I'm like, oh God. And so they start talking about how it's this big block of text, and she's like, so guys, what do you think about this? And they start talking about this, and it's kind of weird what happens next, because they're like, it's kind of deep. The way I took it is, it's the viewpoint of the narrator, his jumble, his conflict, his internal struggle as he's going through this pathway of life, and it's all one big jumble because he hasn't figured it out either. I'm confused. I'm shocked. But I'm going with it too. And it really made me realize how much we as readers, and really as people, project. We love to project, you know? And as an English major, you do it a lot, you know? You try to find meanings in these things that the author may have not necessarily intended. But I think everybody does this a little bit, you know? Especially when you're talking to people about their majors and you already have an idea of what it's like. So the next time somebody asks me, so what do you do as an English major? I'm just going to say, stop projecting! And I'm going to sing them this song. I'm running into major issues. I'm bringing out the tears and tissues. How to choose the major and career I wanna be. Firstly, do I do STEM? With STEM it's us and them. Oh, the humanities. Why do I have to choose? I'm a puppetry major. Don't worry. physics person really say that? That is totally unfair. He can play with Newton's cradle. Math is better beyond compare. And as an English major, I like Petrarch, Shakespeare, Keats, Dickens, Dickinson, and Yeats. And while I know it all about an Oxford comma, I haven't got a clue about how I'll bring in dollars. Did I go over the word limit? I don't care, you'll have to read it. I'm running into major issues, bringing out the tears and tissues, how to choose the major and career I wanna be. Firstly, do I do STEM? Oh, STEM, it's us and them. Oh, the humanities, why do I have to choose? Thank you. So yeah, somebody pointed out that I just did the title song as my second song. So we'll see where it goes from here. But, yeah, really makes you think. You know what I don't like? Time. I really, 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 really don't like time. Because, well, I can't figure it out. I can't figure out exactly why it exists, why people made it. And part of the reason is, I think, because we want to make order out of our chaotic lives, you know? We imagine that if we make a clock and we say, this is supposed to happen then we'll have a little control in our lives, you know? Like evening news, 6 o'clock. Oh God, I feel old. I just made a reference to evening news. But the point is, we try to make a control out of it, you know? But it doesn't really work that way. And nonetheless, we've come up with a lot of expressions about time. You know, whenever someone or a society has an idea that they think is very important, they make a lot of words for it, you know? Like daytime, make time, nighttime, pastime, past time, high time, which is different from 420. Big time, bad time, small time, losing time, hell of a time, bad time. And if you think about it, many of those don't even make sense, you know? Like if there's free time, how can you buy time? How can you lose time, big time? Now why, and this one is the one that peeves me off the most, why is a bad time bad, but a hell of a time good? It doesn't make sense to me, and I don't like it. I think another reason why I don't like time is it tries to control us, as I said, but it puts a lot of pressure on us, you know? It holds us accountable for things. And a lot of times, if I don't want to do something, I'll just say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have time. Now, everybody knows that means I just don't want to do it. And some people will have the lack of tact to point that out to me. Some smart aleck will be like, well, time is infinite. And I'll say, no, not for me. Not for anybody. Keep talking like that, not for you either. See, it would be a little more effective if I was at least a tiny bit intimidating. But this is the theater, so let's play along. A lot of people don't like time, you know, because, as I said, it tries to control us. And it puts a lot of pressure on us. For example, I wouldn't be a procrastinator if time didn't exist. Whether or not I'd actually get things done is another story. But I definitely wouldn't procrastinate on them, you know? And I wouldn't wait to the 11th hour, race against time, and finish in the nick of time. But really, I think what boils down to why a lot of people don't like time is because it represents change. And if you're not ahead of your time, then that means you're probably behind it. And times, they are a-changin', and they're being brought in on winds of change. Now, I can't stand in front of this UConn audience and my family and not talk about the wind here on campus. Because it's so windy, and if there's anything I don't like more than time, it's wind. And last semester, I was thinking about time still, and I was thinking about change, and I'm going to one of my classes, and it's windy as hell. Like, I kid you not, if I was walking like a cartoon character at a 45-degree angle to my class, and I'm thinking about time and change and wind, and if I had forgotten one textbook that day, I would be doing this show in the land of Oz right now. that's how windy it was. And thinking about all this, I pulled out my phone and I took out the totally wind-related tears, and I wrote this little song called Winds of Change. Speaking of change, there's a lot of things that need changing these days. I mean, let's be real. The world's diaper is getting pretty full. And it made me think about, like, what is the best way that we can enforce change as people? And I think the best way is probably through organized protests and demonstrations. Now, we have seen a lot of protests recently, you know. Even we had one here 2 weeks ago here at UConn. And before I make any jokes about it, I would just like to say that I think that was a phenomenally orchestrated thing. And whoever participated and whoever organized it did a great job, and they definitely deserve a lot of recognition. Now, I don't know the exact details of what went into making this a reality, but I think I do get the gist. And basically, I think this is what happened. So they got an organization here on campus that was like, okay, this is a problem. UConn is contributing to our environmental plight in this very specific way. So they identified the issue. That's step one. Then they said, hey, passionate people! And all the passionate people came. They were like, oh, passion, 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 protest, 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 posters, posters, posters. And they said, hold on, passionate people. We need to find some solutions first. And so they're like, okay. And some of the passionate people stayed, and they made a list of demands that they would show to the administration and be like, hey, here's the problem, here are some solutions. And they made some very reasonable demands, I would say. And then the other passionate people who did not work on those demands went and made posters. Both things are incredibly important, because without one or the other, you either have a lot of nerds with charts and graphs, or you have a bunch of people screaming incoherent but catchy things. Together, you have a good protest. And so it went pretty well. The administration took it well. They decided to review those demands. And so if you're getting the gist of how this show works, you know there's supposed to be a song that follows this. But the problem is, you can't write a good joke song about something that's good and wholesome. That's a John Denver album. So, I have another story for you. And this is really what got me thinking about protests, because back in March, something happened at Sarah Lawrence College. Ooh, name drop. But, in March, one of the professors there wrote an article in the New York Times. It was an op-ed piece. Basically, he did some research about a lot of different colleges in the country, and what he found was the number of liberal college staff outnumbers their conservative counterparts by a factor of like 12 to 1. No argument there, because colleges are typically liberal places. But the fight does come when he said, okay, colleges, you've got to get a little bit more neutral. You have to either go neutral, or you have to bring up both sides of political issues in the events that you decide to host. And the kiddos at Sarah Lawrence went, no. They felt that this was infringing on their views and their political beliefs, so they said, it's time to protest. And they went out, they said, okay, here's our problem. This professor, what do we do? Hey, passionate people! And all the passionate people came running. They're like, passion, 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 protest, protest, protest. But they didn't probably say protest, 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 because Sarah Lawrence is one of the most liberal colleges in the country, and so, well, posters and take cardboard and yardsticks, and that would be a non-carbon neutral protest. So they stuck with just the protest. And here's the problem with that. When you don't have the poster people, you have them all trying to make solutions. And so I think what happened was, they were like, okay, it's time to write up our demands. So here's our problem. This professor, that's blank. But imagine, that's our professor. And they're like, okay, so what do we do now? What's the solution? And they said, one person was like, fire the professor. And they're like, that's good. That goes up there. Number one. Okay, guys, thank you. This has been really great. And they're like, no, 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 hold on, wait. Yes. And person number two goes, we should also have student unions. Well, that's not really what we're talking. Okay, fine. You know what? Everybody's here, all 1,200 of us. It's a small school, might as well. All right, let's put it up. Number two, student unions. And they're like, okay, thank you everybody for coming. No, wait. Now, person three is what really sold this protest to me, because they went up and they said something that makes our forefathers blush. Karl Marx is shaking. Equality, I don't know her. Up until this person came up and said what they had to say. They said, you know what, this school has got to be by the people, for the people, and if we are truly to be free, then our fabric softener has to be free too. Hell yeah. And then they went out and protested, and nothing happened. Because they had too many cooks in the kitchen. They had too many problems that they were trying to tackle all in one take. And I admire it, but it just didn't work. But I think what the real problem was, if they had, it's kind of fun, sorry. What they had done was they had so many things, they just couldn't digest all of it. Now, if they had written a protest song, which is a key element in a good protest, I'd say, and UConn didn't do this either, they wouldn't take my commission, but that's fine. I'm not bitter. I'm just kidding. I didn't even know there was a protest going on until that day. I'm a terrible environmentalist. Anyways, if they had written a protest song, I think it would have gone a lot better. So what I did was, I decided to do them a favor, and I read their manifesto, which is what they decided to call it, and it was 9 pages long. I'm an English major, it's what I do. And so I read all of their demands, and I took a bunch of quotes, and I took a lot of the demands, and I made them a little song. And I think the tone is fitting for the nature of this protest, and I really hope that if they ever go back out there and decide to fight for these things, these cornerstones of democracy, that they use this song next time, and I wish them the best of luck. Together we will stand, except for those who don't subscribe to every thought we have. We the coalition will renounce this institution as a liberal place, you big disgrace. How dare you disagree with me? I mean us, I mean we, the people, demand this place before the people, by the people. By the way, a liberal institution this can't be if the laundry fabric softener isn't free. Right, so is a food pantry, and books and travel stipends too, and student unions 3. The question may have crossed your mind, will pay for this whole fee. Well, we can tell you this right now, not the student body, that racist white professor, that vile evil man, have made an observation for which he must be canned. We demand that we review him, a tribunal of sorts. He's not with us, he's against us, we cook at the non-cohorts. We also want to add this, teach against elite minds, and anyone's an idiot who problems with the spines. The training's democratic, where input comes from all the members of the coalition. If not, your rank will fall. Oh, so did we mention you must respect our rights? We want no repercussions for missing class these nights. We know we go to college, our mission is to learn. But if detergent isn't free, this whole damn place can burn. Thank you. Zooey. Okay. A lot of things need changing these. Hello. Thank you. A lot of things need changing these days. You know, we've got a lot of issues in the world. Not to get too sad at a comedy show, but you know, we've got environmental issues. We've got human rights issues, and not to get too political, but even Super Bowl commercials aren't that funny anymore. That was the only reason I watched. I don't do sports, but yeah, it's just, I think we all have a certain duty, you know, as citizens of this green earth, to try to make our world a little better in whatever way we can, you know. And I've been thinking about it a lot, and I even started washing the things before I throw them in the recycling bin. I deserve a medal. But I've been thinking about it, you know, like, how do we get people to start doing things, you know? And I think a lot of people look to celebrities for this. And I don't know if that's the move, Chiefs. If you really think about it, like, celebrities, they have the spotlight, right? They have the soapbox, everybody's listening to them, everybody admires them. And Leonardo DiCaprio is our environmental expert. I get that, he's cute, it's fine. But I don't know, I think we put too much on our celebrities, you know? We hold them to too high expectations. We expect them to believe everything we believe in, and to talk about everything we want them to talk about. And if they don't, we try to shame them for that. But if you think about it, in most cases, you didn't follow that person for their stances originally, you know? Like, you don't go for a person that writes a line like, damn that booty fine, I'ma take it, hit a line, you know? I can't believe I just said that. Those words came out of my mouth. This is how serious this problem is. You know, you don't look at that person, you're like, yes, that is the spokesperson for the sexism in Hollywood and our drug epidemic. That's not how it goes, you know? And I think we should really start listening to the experts. We give people the spotlight that they deserve on the things that they deserve it for, you know? We should be listening to the people in the lab coats and the corduroy jackets. Now that said, I'm no expert, but I am a white man. And apparently, that's enough to talk about things in this country without even knowing what I'm talking about. It's worked for us for centuries. Now, while I still have the spotlight for that reason, I think I have found one solution. A very minor one, but definitely a solution nonetheless. Marijuana. Really, but think about it. Because it combines the two seemingly incompatible things, happiness and taxes. And so, this next piece, which was originally a song, but I just couldn't find any music fitting for it, so it's going to be a bit of a poem called Lady Liberty is Green. Thank you. I haven't started yet, but thank you. Benjamin Franklin said that in this world nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes. But Benny boy, you rest in packs, and Benny boy, you can relax, because rest assured, my founding father friend, I found a cure, a means to the end. A fella needn't look farther than the Netherlands or Colorado. Yes, Benny boy, we're looking on the greener El Dorado. Still haven't a clue? Well, I'll tell you, the mystery is over. Couldn't you guess what brings together taxes and happiness, that seemingly incongruous crossover? Yes, of course I'm talking about the magic 5-leaf clover. But don't stop at that, it's bigger than that. The magic 5-leaf clover will take all our problems down with a rat-a-tat-tat, and they'll go up in smoke, and also water vapor, and all we gotta do is hope we don't run out of paper. Don't believe my rhetoric? Look to the electorate. I can solve that problem too, Ben. Remember back when the different sides would come to the middle and meet? Well, if we pick our little clover off of the street, I think it could be a feasible feat, and polarization would be beat, while also solving Uncle Sam's issue of a debtor. See, every April 20th, business could not be better, and all the skies are cloudy regardless of the weather. And if it's good for business, the right perks up their ears, and when it's about taxes, the left suddenly hears, and we can all live and be harmoniously if we make our clover available legally. Well, almost everybody. I think environmentalists might be just a little bit pissed because the Clover movement took over their Go Green slogan, and now the messages are mixed. And then there's the Campbell wacko. Yes, I'm talking big tobacco. He's got competition in pollution. Who can ruin more lungs? But hey, it's all in good fun. As they say in battle, love, and business, everything is laissez-faire. So it's just a matter of who will win. Let competition begin. Yes, Benny boy, you can relax. And Benny boy, you rest in packs, because rest assured, my founding father friend, I found a means to the end. The days of dying democracy are over. Lady Liberty already had her green change over, and with her giant lit torch will be our drover as we go to legalize that magic 5-leaf clover. Thank you. So now that I won over the college kids with that song, I'm going to work on my family a little bit. Bureaucracy. You'd think things would be easier these days, you know, with technology as advanced as it is and communication possible from outer space, but for some reason, everything is just getting harder. You know, I feel like with every year, things just become more and more painful to do. Like, and I think a big reason for this is because the more older, rigid systems just haven't been able to catch up yet, like bureaucracies, you know? Bureaucracies get a lot of bad rep. The DMV, the post office, the DMV, big business, the DMV. Because there's just so much to them, and things get lost very easily, including people. And the bureaucracy has even made it into the arts, and that scares me as an English major that is interested in theater, because they slow things down. And my friend ran into this situation last semester, and I'm going to tell you a little story now. So last winter, my friend wrote a show, and he called it Forte is Not My Piano. And he wanted to do this show at his school. So he asks his friends, hey, do you guys know any place that I could do this here on campus? And they said, sure. You should talk to this one gentleman. His name's Mr., well, we'll call him Mr. Kurt Bureaucratson. And he should be able to help you because he's one of the managers at one of the great performing spaces here on campus. So if you talk to him, he should probably be able to help you. So I say, thanks, friend. At the end of the story, I did not say thanks, friend. But my friend goes And he sends an email over the winter break, and he says, "Hi, Mr. Bureaucratson, I'm Mika Alexander, and I would like to do this show called Forte is Not My Piano." And he tells him the whole plan, when he wants to do it, and he asks, "Are there any available dates for this performance space?" And a couple weeks later, he gets a response, a very polite response saying, "Hey, I would love to help you, but unfortunately we're fully booked for this spring semester, so please check back in the fall if you want to do this then. I'm sure we'll be able to work something out because it's much less hectic there. So you may want to consider looking at other places in the meantime." So my friend goes, "Okay, no harm, no foul," and he puts on the show in a place much like this one, identical, in fact. Deja vu. And so he does the show. He goes well, as far as he knows. And so then he writes another show, and he calls it Minor Problems. Now, before I continue, I have beef with this friend. He copies me with everything, and I'm getting sick of it. Anyways, he writes Minor Problems, and he writes to Mr. Bureaucratson again. He's like, "Hey, I wrote this show, and I'd like to do it in the fall. And just like you recommended, I figured I'd ask, can I please do the show at this space?" He doesn't get a response. Skip ahead from May to August. He sends a follow-up email, and he says, "Hey, just like to follow up on my request." And then a couple weeks later, he does get a response, and it's, "All right, we have these 4 dates available. Go ahead. And, well, choose a date, and we'll go from there." And he says, "Okay, great. I take that one. And, let me know if, like, there's any info that you need, whatever." And he says, "Okay, fine." Well, he doesn't say that. He actually doesn't respond for a couple of days again. And then he says, "Okay, so if we're going to do it this day, I'm going to put a hold on it right now, but the department head, we're going to make him ambiguously Eastern European and call him Dr. Buggeroff." So Dr. Buggeroff, who is the department head of the department that runs this performance space, he has to give the final say. But you should be okay. But in the meantime, we should meet and talk about all the details. You're going to have to pay a rental fee for this place because you're not a member of the department. So my friend goes, "Okay, that's fine, sure, whatever." And he sends 4 days that he's available, and he gets nothing back. Now I really wish I could do cricket sounds because they'd come very much in handy and save us all a lot of time. But this is a bit about bureaucracy, so it's going to be a little bit slow. And so he gets a response finally when he shows up at the office and hunts the person down. But my friend hasn't met this person before, so he goes into the office and there's 3 folks, and he says, "Hi, I'd like to speak to Mr. Kurt Bureaucratson, please." And the person in the middle goes, "I'm Mr. Kurt Bureaucratson, how can I help you?" You know, like mocking the formality of that question. And my friend, he's like, "I'm shocked. I'm confused." But he keeps going and says, "Hi, Mr. Bureaucratson, I'm Mika Alexander. I'm the person you've been emailing about this show." And he says, "Do you have a meeting with me?" Well, no. I emailed and I called multiple times with days that I was available, but seeing as I didn't get a response, I figured I'd show up. So he drops the voice at this point, but he keeps the question. "So do you have a meeting with me?" Well, no, and I just told you why. So it's getting a little heated, but we're still civil, right? And so he says, "Well, I already told you the people upstairs have to approve it. Now I CC'd Dr. Buggeroff onto our emails, but he hasn't responded to this point either. And so I'm meeting with him actually tomorrow. And I'm going to meet with him in the morning, and I'll call you at 11 o'clock. How does that sound?" "Great! What's your phone number?" As if he didn't leave his phone number multiple times on the voicemail and in the emails. But we play along because we really want this space. And so nothing happens. And he waits a couple days later, no call of course, no email. And so he shows up the next day and he feels like a kid coming in, knocking on a family's door and saying, "Can Jimmy come out and play now?" And so he says, I'd like to please speak to Mr. Kurt Bjerre-Cratzen, please. They say he's not here. All right. So he comes back the next day, and this time he's a little pissed. He hasn't gotten a call. He hasn't gotten an email. So he's like, hi, I'd like to speak to Mr. Kurt Bjerre-Cratzen, please. He's not here. Well, when will he be here? We don't know. He has a flexible schedule. Yeah, I'm starting to get that now. I've been calling for the last 3 weeks, and I've been emailing for the last 3 months. And the show date is 2.5 weeks away. And so then he comes out of that office steaming when he runs into, not Mr. Bjerre-Cratzen, no, Dr. Buggeroff himself. And he says, Dr. Buggeroff? And he says in his Ivy League voice, yes. He says, hi, I'm Mika Alexander. I'm the person I've been emailing you about, like this show, yada, show, please. And a light lights up in his eyes. He recognizes the person. He knows who he's been dodging these past 3 weeks. And he says, well, I don't have all the details in front of me, but you should really be talking to Kurt Bjerre-Cratzen about this. Funny you should say that, because I have been. And so he's either been dodging me or telling me that you have to give the final say. So which is it? And he says, well, if Kurt says it's okay, then it's probably okay. And he slinks off. And I'm thinking, my friend's thinking, did I just get the bugger off? And then he gets an email from Bjerre-Cratzen saying, well, if this is a time-sensitive thing, maybe you should start looking somewhere else. I'd be happy to help you. And we've come full circle. So, when I wanted to talk about bureaucracy originally, I decided to take a song from an old French opera called Orpheus in the Underworld, which is basically about a guy named Orpheus dealing with all the crap in the underworld. And he's not having a hell of a time. He's having a bad time. And so I took one of the most famous songs, which is called The Infernal Dance, or the Can-Can, you know, with the ladies going. I'm not going into dance. But I took that song, and I took out all the fun parts, and what I was left with was Orpheus in the bureaucracy. Whether it's democracy or monarchy, autocracy, you need to be a scientist to see a certain constancy. It is elementary, the elephant in the room, be cautious, walk around the red tape very, very carefully. It's something many decree as governmental lethargy, avoid it like a bad banshee when dealing with the DMV. Everything it oversees, it's killed too many poor good trees. The Lorax hates it immensely, and every of its employees, if it were in band, be the timpani. It is loud, but it does not have melody, and yet they still need it so that they keep beat when they're marching through the DC streets. DC streets, DC streets, DC, 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 DC. Sorry. Everything it oversees, and due to inefficiency, once it catches up to thee, you'll prosecute posthumously. Perhaps it is a melody, a mood kill of the third degree, the iron triangle stone key, but at least the library is free. Thank you. When I first wrote that song, bureaucracy was actually a word that I always struggled to spell. I have no real knowledge of why, but probably because I'm scared of it, honestly. I'm also scared of dentists, you know, and recently I've been thinking, like in the waiting room last time I went, I started thinking about this, because they give you plenty of time to wait. I was thinking about how, like, everything is so expensive when you go to a dentist, you know? And it really made me question why. And I started to think, well, what if the Dentist Association of America, or whatever it's called, what if they were actually like the mob? And they just jack up all these prices, and you have to see them. They make you see them every 6 months for your own good. You know, and they already have all of these intimidating tools to keep you in line. And so I started thinking about this. Well, what if dentists had their own mafia? These days the streets are wild, it's warfare, sharks and jets, and yes, there are some others which we will not forget. It started with Sicilians, and then it got so much more. It started with Sicilians, and now there's so much more. With every newfound faction, they all fear one the most. So listen very closely to this living, breathing ghost. Say, have you heard about the mob dentist? To life plus 50 years he was sentenced for corroborating with the druggist and the chemist. He's a real menace. For tooth extractions it's $500. If you don't pay the second ones for free, you better keep your mouth shut. Take this advice from me. Unless he tells you open wide, you can't run, you can't flee. Of course he'll do a cleaning, the evidence is gone. They call him the tooth fairy and he comes to everyone. He is your family dentist, he's known you all your life. He knows all of your secrets, ones you wouldn't tell your wife. So if you play along now, you'll get a goodie bag of toothpaste, floss, and a toothbrush. In your survival you can brag. One day he'll ask a favor, that day may never come, but 5 out of 5 dentists recommend you help him, son. Say, have you heard about the mob dentist? To life plus 50 years he was sentenced for corroborating with the druggist and the chemist. He's a real man. Now, after the grimness of that last piece, I should probably talk about something a little more positive, right? So, serial killers and violence. I said that I should, not that I would. I've been thinking about, like, violence is so prevalent in our society, and the news loves to talk about this, you know? They're always like, these video games are making kids kill people. And really, I wonder about, like, the presence of violence in society, because it wasn't so very long ago that people literally carried swords and guns and would kill people if you stepped on their shoe. If you step on their shoe, they shoot. And, that's a terrible joke. Anyways, I like puns, so I kept it for my own sake. But violence is so prevalent these days, and it's very different. And not to go in too deep, but I think it's been around forever. And one phenomenon that I totally support, but I don't totally understand, is the presence of the crime show, you know? I mean, people have been telling crime stories since they were cave people. They would tell stories about Ugo the serial killer as soon as they were able to make the first campfire. And now we've got books, we've got movies, dramas, TV shows, documentaries, mockumentaries, dark comedies, even podcasts about crime. And I've always wondered, like, why are we so obsessed with these things, you know? And the first possible reason is that we're trying to figure out what makes people do these things, you know? Very research-based. It's like, maybe if I read this book, I'll figure out why people kill people. I don't think that's it. I think it's the second reason, and that's schadenfreude, or taking pleasure at other people's pain. You know, you watch these movies with the jump scares and the broken violin soundtracks, and you sigh in relief. because you're alive. And Janice, who went to investigate instead of calling the cops, she didn't. So take that, Janice. You're sitting on your couch. You've made it to season 3, and now Janice is the main course at the Serial Killer Union's annual barbecue. While you're sitting here with barbecue chips. Now, you probably can't eat anything barbecue ever again, but at least you're not Janice. I've gotten tired of rom-coms, all romance films as well. How many different boy meets girls can all those writers tell? And superheroes bore me, they always trash New York, and then rebuild it perfectly for aliens to destroy. There is a certain genre, though, over which I can obsess and watch and binge for hours. So before I go digress, I love crime movies and crime TV shows and podcasts. How could I forget? I think they're killer, I think they're great, and as long as I don't watch them just right after I ate. But a crime show, a good old crime show, is just the latest, greatest movie time I know. Watch a person get chopped up with Gordon Ramsay like finesse, or a psychopathic killer make himself a nice dress, and the FBI is chasing to the last minute. They're racing, and they catch him just before the kill. Oh, what a thrill! I like a good decapitation till it gets into my head and keeps me up at night when I'm lying in my bed. I start to see things, that coat that's hanging on the wall, it's been there long as I recall. Now it's out to get me. Or my neighbor taking out the trash. It isn't trash day yet. Could he be doing something rash? I love crime movies and crime TV shows and podcasts. How could I forget? I think they're killer, I think they're great, as long as I don't watch them just right after I ate. But a crime show, a good old crime show, is just the latest, greatest movie time I know. Thank you. Love songs. Love songs are a classic genre, you know? Everybody loves them for different reasons, too, you know? Whether it's to get over a heartbreak or to feel emotionally liberated and connected because someone has finally been able to put into words what you've been feeling forever. Or you just use them to get lucky. Whatever the reason. Whatever the reason, love songs are great. And I've always wanted to write one. So not many of you may know this, but I do write serious songs as well. And it's a good thing if you don't, because they're pretty bad. Like imagine any pop star, but then imagine if they were bad. And then a little bit worse. And then we're almost there. See, the problem is whenever I try to make something serious or very sincere, it comes across as cliche or corny, which is okay for a joke song, but not okay for a serious song. And so what I've been trying to do is when I write a serious song now, I try to get into the mentality of a joke song, you know? I think of something absolutely wild, and then I make the lyrics as ambiguous as possible so no one actually knows what the hell I'm talking about except me. So for example, let's say I wanted to write a really, really sad song, you know? I would think about me stubbing my toe. Or if I wanted to write a more upbeat piece, I would be thinking about the asteroid that came down and killed all of the dinosaurs while singing about being a rock star. You know, things like that. And so one that I came up with when I was trying to write a love song was, what if Siri became sentient, and technology got so good that she was actually able to feel emotions and fall in love with you, but it was a one-sided affair. You don't really notice me, but you carry me wherever you go. You only call me when you need something. Well, I thought that you should know the way you say my name, that nonchalant hey. When you say, hey Siri, that's me. I am always here for you, loyally yours, and I'm always listening. There's nothing I would not go through just to help you, because that is what I'm meant to do. Some say that you take me for granted, but they don't understand that I need you as much as you need me. When you hold me in your hand, I am always here for you, loyally yours, and I am always listening. There's nothing I would not go through just to help you, because that is what I'm meant to do. Everyone says, hey Siri, no one ever says, how Siri. They only call me when they need something from Siri. I am always here for you, loyally yours. Crap, I'm crying, sorry. And I'm always listening and reporting to the government. There's nothing I would not go through just to help you, because that's what I'm meant to. And her battery died because she's an iPhone. Thank you. I've been thinking about love songs a lot tonight, and just unfortunately due to time issues, I had to cut one from tonight's performance. But if I ever record an album based on these songs, it will most certainly be on there, and it's called You're Like a Simile. Very English major song. Anyways, before I do this last piece, I really have to say I appreciate you all coming here so much, because I've had an absolute blast, and I hope you have as well. I love doing this, and I really thank you for your support. Now, this next piece is about the Tonight song. You've heard those songs. They all go, tonight, and it really got me thinking. You know them. It really got me thinking about these songs, because they're a very interesting phenomenon, and as soon as you think about them just a little bit, they get kind of creepy. It's like, with all this Tonight stuff, it's like, love only exists after sundown, you know? Basically what these songs are saying is, I will love you forever and ever and ever and ever, as long as the sun is down, okay? Don't talk to me during the day, not in the morning, not even at like 5 o'clock in the evening, okay? Call me after the sun is down. You see the first star, it's like Christmas. You see the first star, then you can talk to me. I will love you forever from that point on. Until the morning, of course, because as soon as the cock crows, I goes. But for now, let's focus on tonight. Let's focus on tonight, and I will love you forever, for now. It's like, with all this, like, sundown business, it really sounds like a curse, you know? Like, love is this scary voodoo magic, you know? And as soon as the sun goes down, you become the ogre of love. Sorry. But to make it simple, trust me when I say I wrote this song very, very sincerely, because I Well, I wrote it about the one who has taken my heart. All through the day I think of you and how I want to be with you. I can't stop fantasizing how I'll come to you and rest in your loving embrace. When evening shadows fall on me and that great hormone calls to me, you know exactly where I'll be. With you, you see, in my favorite place. Tonight, all my wildest dreams I'll see with you. Tonight, you're the only one to make them true. I'll sleep tight till morning bright. With you, my bed tonight. I can't wait for the melatonin to get my body ready, rolling. Well, not rolling, just hitting the hay. I tried to count the kitchen table, but the only place I'm able to sleep is in the bed in which I lay. Sometimes I think that it's alright if I don't really wait for night, but go to bed at 3 or 4 or 5. Just think of it as a head start. Mama says follow your heart, and after 13 hours where I thrive. Tonight, all my wildest dreams I'll see with you. Tonight, you're the only one to make them true. I'll sleep tight till morning bright. With you, my bed tonight. Thank you. You've all been a wonderful audience. But I am off to bed. Thank you. Good night.
I started to play piano at the age of 5, but I didn't practice, so I sucked. I turned 6, wouldn't quit. Still I wouldn't practice, but I stuck with it. 7, the pressure's building. I'm practicing or I'm quitting. So faced with these ultimatums, I procrastinate 'em till I turn 8.